Hello everybody, and welcome back to Pravus Gaming More Plague Inc. Evolved Custom Scenarios. Alright, we need to get to some quests, I know, but I did find something just as I was browsing the Steam Workshop, and I'm like, okay, we have to try this one. It's Plague Inc. The Dark Descent, which, of course, is a reference to Amnesia, The Dark Descent, the game that really got, like, YouTube gaming started in a big frickin' way. And believe it or not, is the first playthrough I ever did on this channel as well. Not that it was especially good, but it is something I did. Where the heck is it? There it is! Plague Inc. The Dark Descent by Shiratsuyu, or however you say that. This scenario is based on the game Amnesia: The Dark Descent. The orb has been found. You, the Shadow, must hunt it down, killing anyone or anything in your path to reclaim the orb. This scenario, while using some Amnesia lore, is more over-exaggerated and some things made up in order to make it work better as a Plague Inc. mod, which I'm not opposed to at all. Cool, let's go ahead and give this one a shot. It is a Nyctophobia, metabolic jump, Darwinist, oxide chemophile, and dopamine inhibitor, and it is called the Shadow. The orb. A relic is found in a dark chamber in Algeria. Was it in Algeria? I guess it might have been. Unaware of the danger, Daniel, Professor Herbert, and the expedition leaves the chamber with that relic in pieces. The Shadow is a sluggish thing, lagging behind the wielder, killing anyone or anything in its path to reclaim the orb. You are that devastating force. Alright, Amnesia: The Dark Descent was such a good game. Like, really, first off, I have no idea how you start in Algeria, by the way. This is going to be a very unusual start for me. But yeah, it was so good. Like, in so many ways, it kind of redefined what the horror genre could be. And I actually, like, I don't like horror games at all, but I really did appreciate that one for what it was. Really quite fun. And that's the whole reason I even got into YouTube in the first place, is I played through it and I decided it'd be kind of fun to record my reaction going through, say, the water monster scene, and put that on my Facebook. And some of my friends were like, dude, I'd love to see an entire playthrough. And I'm like, okay, sure, I did. And I put it on my channel, and then boom. All of a sudden, I'm like, you know, I kind of like this whole commentary thing. So even though it may be kind of an outdated game, I kind of owe this entire channel to Amnesia: The Dark Descent. A little weird to think about. The Shadow, guardian of the orbs. Slime. The Shadow leaves behind a red, slimy residue in its path. If I recall, it's sort of fleshy to the touch. While not lethal, it is very noticeable and increases infectivity. You say it's very noticeable. Doesn't feel very noticeable, but I'm okay with that. Roar. A loud roar can be heard when the Guardian is near, causing immense fear in the victims, also making them grind their teeth, and it sounds like marbles rolling around in your hand. It's very upsetting. Making them flee and move around more increases land and ship transmission. That could be pretty helpful, actually. Heat resistance, more resistant against heat, effective in the hot climates, and cold resistance in the cold climates. Not typical to see that in transmissions, but okay. Slime particles. Strong winds can take parts of the slime with it and help spread it further, increasing the air transmission. We also have another artifact. It is found. The Guardian is not happy about it. Randomly affect a country. We can do that twice. So we get a slight spore burst. As long as I can use Zombielinis, I don't think I'm going to care about the spore burst, but maybe it could be helpful. We'll find out. Symptoms. Alien memory. Yes, victims of the orb unlock alien memories of spiraling towers, endless deserts, and impossible geometry. Not all memories are pleasant, however. I don't know. Would you qualify those as pleasant? I think they'd be a little bit trippy. Like 2001: A Space Odyssey level of trippy. Nightmares. People affected by the orb and shadow begin to have nightmares, eventually leading to insomnia. Maybe even to amnesia. Not really. That was a particular substance he drank, I know. Abilities. Grunt. Victims reanimate and turn into grotesque creatures. Okay, we do get the Zombielinis. And it's gonna be these guys. What are they called again? I don't remember. It was the Baron de Brandenburg's, like, servants gone all horribly twisted and messed up or something. I don't remember anymore. It's been a very long time since I played that game, alright? But it was fun. Let's go for the slime particles, because we did start off in a hot and arid country, and we are close to a lot of other hot and arid countries, and I want to make my way over towards Saudi Arabia. We got alien memory. The impossible geometry is now a thing, whether I like it or not. I'm going to go for some heat resistance, just kind of speed things up a little bit. We do want to spread faster in our host nation, so we can just get around quickly before we reanimate the dead. Although, again, I mean, it's also a completely legitimate strategy to go for reanimation ASAP, as long as you can get some travel power. You can go all over the place. That said, this seems to be working out pretty well for me. The air transmission is working very, very well. Relentless. The Shadow becomes relentless and move quicker to catch up to the orb, increasing land and ship transmission further. Don't need that at the moment. Let's go for Nyctophobia. Victims develop an intense fear of the dark. I guess we can pick this up. I hope there's a lot more symptoms, because so far I'm not seeing a ton of them. Nightmares. Hallucinations. Having and seeing things that aren't actually real. I mean, so far I only see these 3 left. I guess I can go let mutation chance take care of the rest. I'm a little concerned this might end up being a bit of a threadbare scenario. We'll save up for Relentless. I just need 1 more point. There it is right there. Grab. Nightmares. As I write, my thoughts are drawn to the nightmares in which a most disturbing sound calls to me. A sound defying description, a voice from the void. If there's not a water monster in this, I'm just going to feel very disappointed, I'm just saying. I really hope there's a water monster. Let the water monster start crossing oceans. Ooh, actually, you know what? That could totally be a thing, right? You pick up the zombies, and then one of the abilities to increase travel speed across water is the frickin' water monster. I think that actually is a functional mechanic. We don't need cold resistance right now. That's the only problem. And I don't really want to go for the grunt quite yet, because that's going to activate Zcom before I am ready. I'd rather continue expanding out over here, but there's no, like, drug resistance and stuff. Alright, this is where we're going to go for the artifacts. Let's go for a Spore Burst and try to get into a different continent. Hallucinations mutate. And we got all the way up here to Scandinavia. You know what? It's not the worst thing in the world. We will want to get the cold resistance now that we are in there, though. We'll pick that up next. That leads to hardening. The slime becomes more resistant against chemicals and all natural elements, except for perhaps a little bit of Aquaforte and whatever else was in that frickin' concoction, that chemical jar that you create. The slime becomes very hard to get rid of in all climates. So it's just more environmental resistance. Alright. I mean, I'm fine with that. Scientists are concerned about the shadow. I am a shadow in the night. Probably. I think we are going to go for another artifact. I'd like to get into either North or South America, if at all possible. Just kind of speed things along here. It certainly would be helpful, you know? Just for a bit more of a spread. No, we got into Poland. Okay, well, Poland it is. At least we're getting into places like India. Mostly I just want to be spread out in as many nations as possible when I activate the zombies, because it just makes it a lot easier. Alright, good. We're getting into the United States and Brazil. That makes me feel a lot better about the situation. What else do we want? Hardening? I guess we'll go for hardening. That leads to enraged. The shadow becomes enraged, killing anyone that stands in its way. It's lethal. Hazardous. The slime now increases in strength and size, causing more than just minor wounds. It can now cause environmental damage and potentially be lethal. Sounds all good. Paranoia. Victims become paranoid and think something is stalking them, because it totally is. Give in to your paranoia. It's only paranoia if you're wrong. Okay? Indonesia is leading a cure effort. Bah, humbug. Who's worried about a cure effort? As long as you get the zombies before they can cure you, you're fine. I'm saving up DNA at this point because I'm just kind of waiting for a good spread. Though now we're kind of at a point where I probably could. I'd like to get some more presence down here in like Indonesia or Australia or something first. But we're kind of getting to a point where I totally could just go for the zombies now, and that would not be a bad spot. All right, we are into like New Guinea and Australia. Okay, now feels like a good time to go ahead and get the grunts up and running. So we have the grunts. Somehow that looks absolutely terrifying once the colors have been reversed. Brute. A more dangerous type of gatherer, having brutes increases lethality, severity, as well as giving the reanimated monsters a combat advantage. The Kernk, a.k.a. the water monster. Yay! Roams around in water, increasing lethality slightly, but also increases horde traveling speed in water. I totally called it. I mean, I wish I was able to take credit for that and say I'm just smart, but I mean, it was obvious. It was a very obvious choice, but I'm glad that the author followed through. Intelligence. Gatherers become more intelligent and search the hiding spots, such as closets, giving them a combat advantage. And they actually look at the closets, you know, correctly. They don't just. It's not like playing Outlast, right? Where you hide in a closet and then there's always a scripted, like the monster checks the closet right next to you, but never the one you're actually in, right? It's just kind of a false sense of fear once you realize how the AI works. No. Our guys are actually smart. They check the one next to you, and then they check yours and you die. I don't know if I need this much extra severity, though. Flying naked guys. Oh, God. Supernatural events can cause naked bodies to appear out of nowhere and fly in your face because it's scary, I guess. Increases corpse transmission. Actually useful. We'll pick up. Suitor. Suitors are humans, tortured to insanity. They are blind and therefore less lethal than the brutes, but can pose a big threat regardless. More combat advantage. Well, we do need some of that. I guess I'm going to go ahead and pick up the brute and also the Kernk. I assume we have the ability to do horde travels. Yes. Okay, so we can travel around. That's good. We do need to get a bit more zombies in some of these countries like Australia since we only just infected them, so I'm not very eager to send zombies off in that direction. Let's see, we've got some in the USA, so I can't actually send a few of them from Florida down to the Caribbean. How about in Canada? No one has died in Canada, shockingly. Let's go for intelligence. Severity, of course, very important. It does increase the effectiveness of your zombies. I did forget that for a brief moment. So, yeah, going for severity is a good idea. Poof! Hallucinations can cause victims to think a gatherer is after them, when in reality, that ain't the case, making it hard to know if a gatherer is a real threat or not. Yeah, like walking into those rooms and it's just like scripted to hear a gatherer noise, but there's not actually one there. It was just a scripted noise. Yeah. Amnesia scared the crud out of me the first time I played it. It was really fun, though. All for one and one for all. Gatherers become better with team play, increasing horde speed and size. Team play? Okay, sure, why not? A helping hand. The gatherers start caring for each other and can now revive fallen comrades. How would they fall? I mean, truth be told, in the whole reason Amnesia was a terrifying game is in no small part because you can't fight back, right? The knowledge that all you can do is run, it's literally the stuff of nightmares. Quite literally, right? Think about it. The entire point... okay, so the entire point is to simulate an actual nightmare. And how many of you guys have had nightmares where you're running from something? You don't really know what it is, but you're running from something and all you can do is run and hide. And that's what gets your adrenaline rushing and makes it into a nightmare. It's the exact same concept in Amnesia. It's actually the exact same concept in a game like Outlast, and it's why they're so darn effective at psychological horror. Haunted. How has this escaped me? They're all dead. Limbs scattered, heads split down the middle, their skin flayed as if boiled. I feel like I'm falling into myself. Is it following me? How could it not be? It's the damned thing I brought from Africa. I don't actually remember all of Daniel's logs, but that sounds legit. Let's get into Indonesia with some Zombolinis. Let's get into Japan with some Zombolinis. I just like calling them that. Flying naked guys, the most overused cheap scare in Amnesia. The flying naked guys just had to be included one way or the other. It's true. In pretty much every way that somebody created a like a fan scenario, right, in the kind of custom scenarios of Amnesia, which, by the way, now that I think about it, was one of the first games that ever included proper, like, custom scenarios and stuff. Oh, that's just hilarious, now that I think about it. But anyway, yeah, everyone who's created a fan scenario is you gotta have a cheap jump scare, and it's gotta be the flying naked guy. Woo! So scary! Rituals. Victims are now fully aware of what's going on and fear for their lives. Rituals involving torture and human sacrifice are performed to try and stop the shadow. Yeah, also apparently murdering dogs because, well, the Baron is a jerk. Let's see. Friends. Gatherers put all differences aside and actively work together to destroy humans, increasing horde speed and size. Don't need that. Feeding. Feed on the victims. Sustain the gatherer's life force. I like the idea of decaying slower. I find that to be an underused mechanic for the zombie plague in Plague Inc., so we're going to do that. Gatherers now feed on fallen comrades as well for their own survival, making their bodies decay at a slower rate. We can afford to do that. I'm looking for combat advantage, though. Iron Skin. Decrease in decay in hot environments, probably not too relevant to us. Hearing, crouching away from gatherers is more difficult now. Gatherers can hear even the tiniest of noise, increasing their combat advantage somewhat. Alright. Strength instead of strength. Improved strength makes it easier for gatherers to tear down doors and other obstacles in their way, giving them a combat advantage. And then finally we have terror. Increased chance that the gatherers will chase victims and deal higher damage, increasing the combat advantage. Well, that just makes sense. Alright, here's all the free DNA coming through. What are we missing over in... We're not missing anything over here in North and South America, just the Philippines and New Zealand. And since ZCOM did decide to set up in New Zealand, that's a slight problem for me. Let's get into the Philippines, and let's start sending some guys over here just to try and kind of test the waters. Ritual. I can't stop sweating and shaking. Alexander said I had to perform the ritual. The shadow could be led astray by the blood of another. What else could I do? Alexander said it had to be done. He is saving my life. I don't have the luxury of argument. Except for when you do, and you kind of screw Alexander over. Downfall. I cannot believe what I have become. What is a life worth? How many lives can I take before I surrender my own? If only the shadow had caught me in London or Algeria, the world wouldn't have to suffer this madness. Yes, Daniel, you're very selfish. Shame on you. Alright, we're getting into New Zealand. Slight zombie presence. It's not going to be very strong. Well, I say that, and then apparently we have enough combat advantage that they are expanding. ZCOM didn't quite get strong enough in this game. Alright, well, let's improve that further with terror, and then sanity meter. Gatherers become even scarier, making people lose their minds just by looking at them. People with low sanity become very vulnerable, increasing combat advantage. Also, Can't forget the grinding of the teeth like marbles. If there's anything I didn't like in Amnesia The Dark Descent, it was that sound effect. I hated that sound. It was like nails on a chalkboard, dude. It sucked. Hated it so much. Alright, so basically the entire world has been infected by the shadow. Daniel, just freaking throw yourself into the sea by now. Gosh dang it. Let's go for enraged and hazardous for your health. There weren't a lot of symptoms, which I find a little disappointing, but okay. We don't need things like friends. Who needs friends? Night vision? Sure. Combat advantage. Iron skin sounds good. It's just not decay in the heat. And ZCOM grows stronger in New Zealand. For all the good that's going to do you, you've already hit critical mass a long time ago. You're pretty much doomed. There we go. ZCOM has been destroyed, and I think the entire world has now been infected. The shadow has destroyed humanity. There we go. Was there ever any, like, actual explanation as to what the orb was, or was it always just sort of assumed to be, like, a mystical thing that didn't need an explanation? Was it an alien device? Heck if I freaking know. I do know that I was really hoping that Amnesia, like a machine for pigs, was going to kind of build on that storyline a bit, but it really didn't. Honestly, that game was a bit disappointing, but The Dark Descent was so good. 532 days, 41,770 points, 66% cure progress, 2 stars overall. Could have gone a little bit faster, probably, but I was just sort of having fun with it. I think that the scenario itself is pretty good. For the most part, like, abilities and stuff seem to be alright. I think the symptoms could afford to be fleshed out a little bit more. But otherwise, conceptually, it's good. And just from a nostalgia standpoint, I really like the idea of having The Dark Descent as a scenario, so I'm going to absolutely have to recommend that. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and if so, then I ask that you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe, hit that notify bell, and I will see you guys next time.